Margaret Thatcher's dead. Ding dong, the wicked bitch is dead. It's a shame the bitch didn't die 87 years ago. It's a shame that the IRA didn't kill the bitch.
So, it was actually released. Bendy the Dark Revival, it actually released. Let's go back to spring of 2019. Bendy and the Ink Machine's final chapter had just released, but it kind of ended the story on a cliffhanger. As luck would have it, the protagonist, Henry, got stuck in a never-ending time loop. That's a pretty unsatisfactory ending if you ask me, but doesn't matter. The fans of the franchise had accepted that the ride was over, and they were happy with the ending they got. But before the fans checked out, Kindly Beast had one more trick up their sleeve.
So what can you expect in the coming months? Well, I can't say much. Just too many secrets being cooked up in the kitchen. But what I can say is that big things are coming. Massive things. You just watch. At Joey Drew Studios, we're going to bring dreams to life.
Bendy will return. On the 14th of April, the title for the new game was announced. Bendy and the Dark Revival. Everyone was ecstatic, but that's not all. The studio is working on a new game as well. Okay, so there was a dev team that was working on this game for months, but the meatly Mike Boone took it over and cobbled together a product with the original assets in 2 weeks because of reasons. It turned out bad, nobody bought it. It turned out to be a huge financial blow that ended up costing the studio 50 employees, which was almost the entire studio. In the next couple of years, the game would end up in development limbo. What didn't help was the giant worldwide pandemic and the $500 million lawsuit from the merchandising company. At any rate, nobody expected the game to release at all, that is, until the 31st of October. Look, an actual release date. Can't wait. Okay, the game doesn't actually start with Chapter 1, it starts with the prelude. So, you're playing as Audrey, a young animator working overtime for Archgate Pictures. They recently purchased Joey Drew's legacy, and now you guys are making Bendy cartoons. Great, but Audrey needs a coffee break. This game has the survival horror tag on its Steam page, so she's not getting her coffee break. Audrey steps into the elevator before the studio's janitor, Wilson, forces his way back in. He hits on Audrey for a little bit before the power goes out, and you need to turn it back on. How do we do that? Well, first we explore the Joey Drew exhibit. Next we turn on the giant ink. Wilson even makes us go on a fetch quest to pick up all the items. Why? Why does this happen 2 games in a row? What goes through your head to make you think, yep, this random machine with a giant nozzle that requires 6 items to be placed on pedestals will fix the power? Well, surprise, surprise, it did a bad thing, and now Audrey's in the studio from the first game. So we pick up 2 bars to fix the ladder. This is never used again. Oh look, it's Boris from the first game, and we just came out of where Boris' safe house originally was in Chapter 3 from the Ink Machine. I'm sure the game has a convenient explanation for this, right? Looks like the toy shop got a bit of a facelift from the Ink Machine, and it's here where the game introduces us to our first enemy, and the introduction of a health bar. Survival horror game with a health bar. Now look, this means that either the game is going to have to be super stealthy, or the combat will be more fleshed out. Right? Either of those things could happen at all. Like, period, right? Whatever, we heal up on bacon soup and Allison briefly shows up to tell us about the ink demon.
I hope we meet again. Oh, and one more thing. Above everything else, stay away from the ink demon.
What's an ink demon?
Oh, you'll know him when you see him. He likes to smile and he kills anything that moves.
Then she leaves. We come across a jet pipe, but Audrey doesn't want to go in because the room's too... well, it's too dark.
Once I establish my theocracy, I will throw you in my dungeon and let you rot for eternity!
It's here that the game introduces us to stealth mechanics, and they're fine. I mean, they're pretty bare bones and unenjoyable, but anyways, after throwing yourselves into danger and walking on a tightrope between life and death, to turn on a light bulb, we grab the jet pipe. And it's here where we have our first combat encounter. Here's how it works. You have one weapon, right, the jet pipe. You have to let your enemies swarm you, face tank them, die, respawn, and repeat the loop. Most of the time you'll be clicking mouse 1 and holding S. It's not fun, it's very fleshed out, it's repetitive and boring. Since there's no consequence for dying at all, under most circumstances, you don't even have to worry about stealth in most cases. The worst part is when you have to deal with swarms of enemies, like a lot of them, but we'll get to that later. For now, let's move on to chapter 2.
Reese's Puffs, Reese's Puffs. Eat 'em up, beat 'em up, beat 'em up, beat 'em up. Reese's Puffs, Reese's Puffs. Eat 'em up.
On our way, we encounter this little Bendy in a suit and accidentally hurt him. Audrey decides to chase after him, and that segues into chapter 2. Look! It says don't knock. What's the most logical thing to do in this scenario?
Is that you, Phil? I told you I'm not opening the door until you bring me my pictures. I drew them. I want them back.
Okay. I guess we have to find his drawings to progress. There's more than one way to tackle this issue in particular, right? Maybe you tell him you have the drawings, trick him to opening the door, force your way into the room. Maybe, better yet, find another way through. It's not that hard. On our way, we encountered the Ink Demon from the first game. The only reason I didn't talk about him in my last review is because he didn't serve much of a purpose in the ink machine. Well, I mean, that is until you have to kill him off at chapter 5 for some reason. For most chapters, he just jump scares Henry for YouTube bait, and during chapter 3, he follows you around the map, kind of like a dollar store nemesis, but most of the time he gets stuck in the stairwell. Well, now he just appears at random, sort of like chapter 3, but now you have 10 seconds to hide before it's game over. And by game over, I mean you just have to reload your last save, and the game auto-saves, so it doesn't matter. It's a grind the pacing of the game to a halt. Yeah, but better. He also speaks now. Ah yes, he's British, in a 1940s animation studio. Makes sense. Shut up. What are you gonna do? You're gonna charge me with a tally license? You're gonna threaten me with a metric system? America declares war on people who use the metric system. So, yeah, he appears every time the player collects a single thing of artwork. Fun. So we place the artwork down. Okay. Where do I hide? Look, our first puzzle, where we have to think. Cool. So you align the picture and the number, and it isn't a fetch quest. You actually have to use your brain. Oh look, there's a ghost lady. Apparently she's supposed to be the 4th member of the Butcher Gang, who are a group of antagonists from the Bendy cartoons. In this game, she just appears out of left field and screams at you. Every time this happened, I screamed out of primal rage because she takes a bit of your health with her. There's no way to prevent it. That's not fun. In fact, it caused me to scream out of primal rage. She stops appearing around chapter 4, but seriously, why was she added? Okay, so you find this Winnie the Pooh type guy, a porter who gives you teleporting powder after you clog him from these pipes. He only shows up for a couple of minutes, but kindly Beast decided to give him his own bio page. Okay. Anyways, the game leads us to the Artist's Rest, which is a place jam-packed full of beds for some reason. I swarmed with respawning enemies, so you know the drill.
Okay. So, like, what do I do? Do I die? I'm assuming I die. I just die.
Okay, why doesn't this work? Until it just does for some reason. Is this a sign for things to come in the future? So you make it to the elevator. Okay, God. This one's pretty short. So we have our first boss fight with these head crabs and this giant Half-Life Gonarch looking thing. And since there's no penalty for death, you know the drill. We talk to Allison. She tells us that she'll find us. She doesn't. Oh look, it's Joey Drew. He gives us this grand spiel about how he died. Okay, look, I get that the conversation is a bit more nuanced than that, but Joey just uses really vague terms like the cycle, and the studio is full of surprises, and the entire conversation is just left up to a bunch of clickbait theory channels to decide what it means. So I walk down and I find this poster that says Lord Amok rules, and I find this note explaining how Lord Amok and his legion will take over the studio because apparently there's factions and a power struggle in this game. This is revealed after 2.5 games. Cool. So we have to drain these pipes to clear these tunnels, and along the way we have to deal with these Mohawk guys.
What kind of garbage is that? Oops, my anarchy symbol.
They function the same as the rest of the enemies. Anyways, this whole chapter's been building up to the fight with the Lord Amok. Come to find out, we can just walk up and kill him. If he kills us, it doesn't matter because there's no penalty for death. After we do that, we're crowned as the new Amok. Does anything stem from this, like, at all? We meet up with Bendy and we ask him where the Gent building is because apparently, we need to see the Gent building. He does this thing and decides to accompany us on our journey for like 5 minutes. And we also get to see a glimpse of BioShock. It's BioShock. This whole game is literally dollar store BioShock. That segues us to chapter 4. So we go to this town area to find clues to enter the Gent building. Along the way, J. Jonah Jameson, Joey Drew teleports us to a recreation of the area from chapter 1. He uses this little film to tell us that Joey Drew was a bad man in real life, and that he built an ink machine to torture some version of Henry he created in an alternate universe. He also used it to create Audrey, which shocks her more than the fact that you can create and fit an alternate reality inside of a box. So, yeah, we leave the place and Bendy's gone. We enter the Gent building. I hope the chase sequence actually works, at the very least. Oh, cool. So we entered the building, and the Big Daddy from BioShock 1 tries to gas us. Luckily, we escape. Then there's 2 rooms of stealth and a door, but the door isn't working, so we play hide and seek with this random chick so she can open the door. She gives us the ability to travel between respawn points, but the devs forgot to implement this into the rest of the game, so it's only used once. Henry is in this chapter, and even though he's insufferable to talk to since he's a worse clone of Ethan Winters, the conversation is short. Thank God. Finally arrive at Wilson's place after a train ride where monologues about fiction. I don't hear. Audrey meets Bendy, who gives us a tour of the compound. We also apparently have to make Gilson and drink it, so one thing leads to another. We steal a fish, and Alice Angel kidnaps Audrey. There's really no build-up, it just happens out of the blue. So Alice gives us a riddle. I don't know. I was already done with the game at this point, so I looked up a walkthrough. Here's the code. Anyways, Alice gets up on a platform and starts shooting us with a Thompson, and you can't avoid the bullets because they're hit scan. And all you can do between cover is soak up damage, die, and repeat. The map is confusing and directionless. You have no idea what you're doing. And if you stand behind Alice, the prompt to push her off the edge might not even appear. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to video game hell. Alice promptly stabs Alice in the chest before this dialogue plays.
My face. You have my face. It's our
Anyways, we go back and meet up with Wilson. Before we do that, Betty asks us to find her some ingredients at the supermarket. It's here that we're introduced to the entire subway system that's never used, not even once, in the entire game afterwards. It doesn't matter since you can just breeze past Betty. Okay, and you talk to Wilson in the study. He mentions replacing the Ink Demon with this random sailor character. The canvas, it's colored. It has actual color. The entire game has a muted color palette, and this thing, it's colored. It has blue. It has brown. It has a slightly darker shade of blue. I hate it. Anyways, Wilson tries sacrificing us to make this thing come to life. Well, okay, so let's just say, if the ink machine could create Audrey out of thin air, why does this thing need a soul to be created out of thin air? In fact, why do all of these ink creatures, I mean, they were created without souls, right? At least, as far as I know, it's a completely different alternate universe that was just created out of thin air by Joey Drew. Apparently, right? I mean, we were just told that in Chapter 4. I mean, why can't you write a story that isn't Neon Genesis Evangelion levels of confusing? So we sacrificed Wilson to the machine, and we have to fight him as the sailor character. All things considered, it's an alright boss fight. There's not much you can really do with the game's limited mechanics, but okay. Oh yeah, and he tears Audrey's legs off, and the Ink Demon consumes us. So now we're seeing from the Ink Demon's point of view, and he kills Joey. I guess we're merged with him. So we have to take control of him, even though we could have done that before he killed Joey. Now we take control of Beast Bendy. It's lame. We just travel these conveniently supersized rooms, and these guys swarm the player. It's not like it matters. They don't do any damage, and since they constantly respawn, killing them is futile. All these characters who are alive from the story show up, and that includes Sammy Lawrence from the last game. I guess he was supposed to serve a larger role in the game, but the circumstances made sure otherwise. And he even shows up with the serious lack of testosterone in his vocal cords. Anyways, Audrey shoots herself in the Gent Corporation to something. Buy the sequel. Anyways, that's the Dark Revival, half-baked, poorly written sequel to a game that wasn't even too great to begin with. It costs $30 if you want to wait for it to go on sale. At least, that's what I would have said. This entire spiel is unscripted. I have no idea why I'm doing this, but I am literal seconds away from finishing the video at this point in production, and as I look back, I really tore this game apart. Now, why did I do that? Well, first off, Joey Drew Studios has historically shown no respect for the consumer, or its work staff. If 55 employees isn't enough, if adding elements to gameplay for the purposes of YouTube clickbait is enough. Ghost Lady in Chapter 2, she serves almost zero purpose. Yeah, I look on YouTube and bam! This, like, X number of thumbnails. It's crazy. Or the entire merchandising line. Or stealing art from their fans and not even paying them a dime. If none of that sells you, what about this quote from Mike Mood? I mean, alleged quote. Take it with a grain of salt, but yeah, no. Nowadays, you don't see too many pieces just absolutely tearing the room apart limb by limb. Now, people give constructive criticism. They tell Tommy Wiseau what he can do better next time, if you were to ever make a film again, right? And people did that with Ink Machine. It wasn't a great game, gotta be completely honest. And dozens and dozens of people had a bunch of valid criticisms that they gave the developers, and yet they didn't listen. They repeated the exact same mistakes again. Maybe they even messed it up. Maybe they even did it worse this time, right? I guess the point I'm trying to get across here is that this is a really bad game. It's not even worth a dime. The point I'm trying to get across here is that this is a really bad game, and it's not even worth a dime of your hard-earned money. You know what? If you got that money through slave labor, right, it wasn't hard-earned, I don't care. Just don't buy it. It's not worth your time. It's bad. In the circumstances plaguing Postal 2's development, I didn't tear it apart. I mean, for God's sake, if they couldn't help it. The entirety of Russia was experiencing financial collapse. It's fine. But these folks, they don't care about the consumer, about their own work staff, about anyone. So, yeah, I'm just... So I'm going to leave it off on this note. Don't buy the game. It's not even worth a dime of your hard-earned money. It's not worth your time. 0 out of 7. Nope, -7 out of 7. Try harder next time.